Feels slightly weird to finally do a piece to camera sitting inside a 911 GT3 Touring. The car was launched in what, 2017? It's an ordinary car that is to many people very, very special. To me, it's incredibly special because this one's done 49,737 miles. I didn't do all of them, but I've done most of them. It makes every single journey better than it might otherwise have been. I've had lots going on in my life during that time, as everyone has. And this little yellow car has been a constant. It's made every moment better than it might have been, and I am hugely grateful to it for that. I have a strong emotional relationship with it because it's a 911. I love the way Porsche do things. It's robust. I kick the shit out of it. The dog lives in it. It gets covered in crap. My friend James Walker at TI22 Detailing has to sort of sluice it out with sheep dip once every couple of months, and then it just keeps going. It's performed faultlessly. It just gets hammered the whole time, and it's one of the best driver's cars I've ever driven, but I want it to be that as well. What a skill set that is. So what have we got? We've got the 4-litre later GT3 engine. So it revs all the way to 9 and it keeps going between 8 and 9. Unlike the GT3 RS 4-litre engine, which was a response to the 3.8 that kept going bang. This is complicated, I know. But the crucial thing here is that these cars are always compared to 911Rs, which are more special. They are rarer and they've got a carbon roof and other bits and bobs. But the engine in that car ain't a patch on the engine in this car. I can tell you that because I did a 10,000 mile stint in a 911R, and this is a better engine. So, I need to do a bit of hoonery because I just love the idea of giving this thing a skid. Never ever done it. I'm a bit naughty about sliding my own cars around. Normally it's someone else's. What a machine. So you've got that engine, 500 horsepower, give or take a couple of pennies, and a manual gearbox, which I just think means that it's a proper driver's car, because I'm always doing something. I've got 3 pedals. How good the car is, how smooth it is, how well it covers ground is more down to how good or bad I am on that particular day. And I'm bad very often, don't get it wrong. Steering, electric, I know, not perfect, and it does feel a bit numb after a 4-litre GT3 RS 997, but it's still a great steering rack. 4-wheel steering works brilliantly. Right here on a track, I know this is the road version effectively. I'm not missing out on much, am I? I'm not going through really fast corners and needing to get downforce, none of that. I'm reveling in the driving experience. I just love the fact that it's manual. Oh, love it. Really do love it. The interior, well, we'll have a good look around it, actually, static in a minute, but it's stood up to the pounding really, really well. It's you know, steering wheel's a bit shiny. There's a few places that it's got scuffed up, but given that me and an English Bull Terrier live in here, I think it's remarkably resilient. So what we have here is a bog standard, if you can say that, 911 GT3 Touring that's been my daily driver for 2 and a bit years now. It's just up on 50,000 miles, or not quite there. I call it the banana. Let's have a look round the old smoke. First of all, the colour. This is not the standard colour, this is a wrap. I can't believe I'm saying that, it makes me sound like an influencer. My mate in Lichfield does these things. He says, do you want to try it out? And I thought I would, because the standard colour is what they call speed yellow, which is a bit of a washed out, sort of mealy mouth yellow for me. I wanted something a bit more orangey. And this is, it's not quite signal, but it's not far off signal yellow. And if you look underneath, in fact, we'll do a close up now, just there you can see the colour underneath, which is a much lighter yellow. At the front of the car, other things worth noting, this splitter is much smaller than on the normal GT3, but they still get snagged. This one is crunched, it's ruined, however, it's in one piece. It's not been replaced at all. I've left the same one on. And if you look underneath there, what's quite interesting is there's lots of aero fins and ducts channeling air to the brakes and channeling airflow underneath the car, they're almost all worn away. They've just gone, because I don't suppose they're used to doing so many road miles. But I can't really complain. It makes no difference to me. I get accused of having an illegal number plate. That is exactly the right size. It's reflective. It's all done properly, and it stops me having that ugly mount, which I think is awful. Other than that, no, front of the car is, well, it's just a 911, isn't it? It's just a yellow one. Come around here. These are not the standard GT3 wheels, I know that. These are the super lightweight forged Manthey BBS ones. They are utterly gorgeous. Yes, they're very expensive. I don't want to talk about the price, but if you can, you really should. Here we go at the brakes. So you can see from the red caliper, this is it's a steel brake, and they are not the best solution for this car. If I could have ceramics, my black car that got written off had ceramics. This one was the only option for me. It has the steels. I said to myself I'd use them until they'd wear out, but they've lasted 2 years. They are very resilient, but they're just not as good in terms of pedal feel. They're not as good in terms of resisting fade. They're adequate, but if you can, you should have a car with ceramics. I really would. I mean, it's just a 911, isn't it? That's what I love about it. It just looks like a 911. Those that know. Those that don't know just think I'm another prick with a Porsche and a tiny winkle. It's all beginning to just wear in all the right areas. There's stone chips everywhere. It's just weathered. It's a car that gets used. Have a look inside. All the leather, the really nice leather, has stayed waxy and really just looks like it's been used lightly, but hasn't gone horribly polished. Unlike the steering wheel, which is now proper mini cab, dark black polish. The other thing I love, before we get to the seats on the inside, is that this pad here, this extra pad where your hip goes and where you get in and out, that there is now all worn down and scuffed up. And for me, that's the first sign I look for on a Porsche with these seats that gets used. If that's scuffed, it's being used as intended. If that's not worn, you're not using it properly. Now, these inserts were done by a guy in Germany called Justin, and they are absolutely sensational. I'll put his link up on the film now so you can see who he is. But they weren't cheap, but I think they just lift the interior for me. Pop inside. First of all, I love it where it says 911 GT3 when I get in, every time, as if I needed reminding. But I love the fact that being a Touring, the logo's been changed so it doesn't have a wing on it. Detail is everything. Look at the mileage. So when I drive from here up to London tonight, I think we will click over 50,000 miles. I have to report the only repeated failure on the car. This gear knob is not fit for purpose. I find it a bit strange because this is the centerpiece of the whole car. The whole point of a Touring is it's a manual gearbox. That's the third one. Now, I don't know whether I've just got an unnaturally abrasive left wrist, or whether my wrist action, no giggling at the back, is wrong. But yeah, that can just go there. That just breaks the whole time it falls off. But other than that, this is a much, much tougher cabin than a 997. It really has stood up so well. And bearing in mind the dog lives in here most of the time. Another point with the dog. If the dog decides to move around a bit, even though he's harnessed in, he could easily switch off the traction control. That's a design fault for dog owners. So I've had a couple of moments coming on the slip roads where I've thought, that's interesting, we appear to be oversteering. And it's because my dog has switched off the ESC. I'm not sure if I should admit that in public. This car also was fitted with the metal optional pedals, which look great, but aren't as grippy as the rubber ones. You want rubber pedals and you want PCCBs. Oh, and the carbon bucket's the only way forward. People say, why have you got the bucket seats? It's a comfort car. Well, there are no back seats. There's no point in having the foldable ones for me, really. And these are just the best seat that Porsche makes. Not much else. Like I said in the car, this thing has been a joy. And I kind of want to keep on using it forever. What's gone wrong with it? Well, not much really. It's just had regular oil changes. It's gone through a few tyres. This is interesting. It came on Michelin Cup 2s. They were good, but once the weather got cold, they were useless. And I almost noticed it over a weekend when the temperature dropped 5 degrees. They just sort of gave up. So I then moved on to Michelin Pilot Sport 4S. What a tyre. Suits the car well. You get much, much better performance in wet and cold conditions. What you do lose though is some front end, because the sidewall is clearly a bit squishier than the Cup. And so the front of the car isn't quite as responsive. What a noise. Now, I will admit that this car isn't running a standard exhaust system. It's got an Akrapovic on it, and it's open the whole time at the moment. because the button stopped working. So there you go, there's a fault. The car's button on the exhaust stopped working, which actually isn't a Porsche part. But the Acura is just a musical instrument. It's all titanium, it takes weight out of the car. It's just gorgeous. Other than that, the engine is standard. There's nothing, there's nothing trick about it at all. It's just a beast. It's 500 horsepower. I've normally aspirated 9,000 RPM joy. And when these are gone, we will regret it because they're just stunning. Gearbox has stood up really, really well actually. The linkage is getting a little bit slack. So going from, in a cold day, starting the car up and going from neutral to first, there's a little bit of stiction. But really, this feels like it'd do 150,000 miles quite easily. So it should. It's a quality piece of kit. Is this the best Porsche GT product I've ever driven? Depends, I suppose, what you want to do with it. I'm not really interested in just track daying a car. I want to use it on the road. And do you know what? The combination of a manual gearbox, this engine, in this totally ordinary body style. I mean, it looks so ordinary. Yes, this one looks a bit like an angry wasp, but the rest of it is just a plain shape. There's no wings, there's no real splitter on it. I think it's a car that you can use every day. I don't need to go and get to a track to go, oh, I now understand why I've got this car. I'm every day I'm in it, and I just think it's wonderful. The engine is just, it's the business. The steering is intuitive, it loves sliding, it loves being in a straight line. Every time I get between 8 and 9, I can't believe they put a warranty on these things. Super agile. I think they are unbeatable. There's no other car I want to drive. Every single time I come back from a job where I've been lucky enough to film the latest hypercar or supercar or anything, I get into this and I just think, nah, you're welcome to all that other stuff. This is what I want in a car. It's got room, it's practical, it's incredibly exciting. And so I'm left in a bit of a conundrum really, because I'd really like to just drive this one forever, but I'm very lucky I've got the new Touring coming. So what do you do with this one? Because it's a bit of a part of the furniture now. My kids love it, I adore it, and I'd love it to keep accumulating miles really. But Porsche has smashed it out of the room with this car. I think I know it's a rare beastie, and prices are silly, but they sort of deserve to be, because I don't know anything else that does the same job. I really don't know another car that can do what this car does. Maybe that's what makes it so special. But me and the banana have become very, very good friends.